Hey everybody, it's Eddie J on crypto. Hope you're having a good one. So, a lot is going on around, I would say, the regulatory space, compliance space, right? And what I'm seeing is that the FOMC, the FDIC, and the OCC, those are the three regulators that actually regulate the banking industry. They've come together to release a clarifying statement that, hey, banks are allowed to deal in crypto, as well as they are not discouraging banks from doing so. So that's a really big statement to make. Really, really big. They do say that, or at least the Fed, the FOMC, says that, listen, liquidity is still a risk. So be mindful. Okay. Now, all of that together is a very big deal when you look at the whole industry, because that says that the banking industry has a green light to be all up in that shit. Okay. The idea is that you're already seeing it. And I think with a clarifying statement like that, you're going to see more financial institutions actually get deeper into crypto. You'll see more financial institutions actually actively start their crypto journey. And the reason why is because, hey, are there going to be any new principles, risk principles around regulating crypto? Because we already have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops. There are a lot of banks that are having to deal with consent orders and things like that, and they just want to be sure. And that statement makes it incredibly clear for them. That leads me to my next topic. So I want you to pay attention to Coinbase. Coinbase announced yesterday that they're going to launch their own layer 2 platform, not a coin, but the underlying layer 2 platform. Arbitrum has done the same thing. They do not have their own, coin. They just have the platform. Now, the reason why that's a big deal, first, you know what? Let's backpedal a little bit. The news of that launch, they tried to tease it, make it a big deal, at least a little bit. They didn't do a good job. And their stock, it didn't suffer, but it didn't really get the boost they thought it was going to get. The reason why is because they only released the test net, and they're not expected to actually release the main net until next year. However, Optimism pumped up, I think, about 13% or something like that. That's not the news either. The news really is, and I've been saying this for a while, is that crypto exchanges are going to have to figure out what their place in the world is going to be in the future. And Coinbase might have figured out what theirs is going to be. Right now, what they're thinking is, listen, if we launch a layer 2, right, and it'll be based on Optimism's technology, but if we launch a layer 2, we can be that Fiat on-ramp for DApps, something other platforms don't necessarily have right at their fingertips. Now, I really want you to pay attention to this. Who is behind Coinbase? BlackRock, right? So the idea of being able to on-ramp Fiat so quickly is going to be a big deal. And this is where I think BlackRock is playing their cards right and Coinbase are playing their cards right and becoming a part of what I've always said is connective tissue within the crypto industry. It's a very big deal to be able to on-ramp money. So even though FOMC, I call them the banking regulatory triumvirate. So if you look at the triumvirates making that clarifying statement, here is a crypto exchange that's saying, that's great. We're already connected to not a bank, but a very well financially safe business, BlackRock, which basically connects them to banks. Think about BlackRock's investment in Silvergate. Silvergate might not be doing well now, but I think they will be doing well in the future, and I think that's what people are banking on. Sorry for the pun. But when I look at that, I'm sitting back and I'm going, wow, that's actually really smart, because the future of crypto is going to be non-custodial. Not that custodial services is going to go away fully. It never will. But that right now, custodial services is the higher piece of the pie versus non-custodial. And I think over time you're going to see that kind of flip-flop, right? Where you're going to see more non-custodial than you do see custodial. And that means that you need to be that bridge between traditional and crypto as time moves forward. Now, when you really stop and think about it, you're probably going to have more people just getting straight up paid in crypto. So they'll have to figure out, their future beyond that point as well. But right now, as an interim that would probably last a while, that is a very smart move. Very smart. Now, I'm looking at Block in this situation. I'm looking at Block. Block took a $47 million, hit in 2022 for their Bitcoin investments. But I will say they are also an on-ramp. Square, you can do business with Bitcoin with using Square, and you can definitely on-ramp using Cash App for Bitcoin. And then you can move that Bitcoin and then flip it to other coins and assets as you please. But those are a couple of very clear on-ramps. All right. Now, Dapper Labs got hit with that court ruling that says, yeah, we're not going to throw out that case. Judge Victor Marrero is not playing games. So I'm pretty sure as a part of their plan, Dapper Labs already knew that they were going to have to tighten their belt. So what do? They're laying off another 20% of their staff, and that's about 205 people. Unfortunate, but, it's going to be a very big deal. That case is going to be a landmark case. No matter what you think, it is going to be a landmark case. Very much so. The IMF, the audacity. The IMF has said that crypto should not be made legal tender, and in a step beyond has said, hey, it's not that that you should ban crypto. We're not saying that, but it shouldn't be off the table either. Listen up, guys. Get your stuff in line. You're not thinking straight. Right now, the IMF is looking like they're just beating themselves up. They're going to be kicked. They're going to be dragged, kicking and screaming into the new crypto world. And if they have to be dragged in while they're kicking and screaming, I'm just wondering if people don't just let go. El Salvador has. I know Brazil has basically said, yeah, whatever. A lot of countries are saying, yeah, whatever. And the IMF is beginning to look stupid. They need to go back and rethink their standpoint on crypto. Binance, in another regulatory misstep, another one, but I will give them credit. They had mislabeled about 500 of their users as wholesale investors, giving them access to derivatives and allowed them to make investments in those derivatives. They recognized the mistake, shut down. It wasn't by mistake that they shut down those accounts and will make those people whole. So basically, they'll walk away with the money that they had originally invested. They notified Australian authorities, and Australian authorities are taking a more pointed or focused look, under the covers at Binance. Now, they'll probably have to pay a fine or something like that. But what I will say is that's pretty good. They recognized the problem, came up with a fix for the problem, notified the regulators, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't all that clean of a process, but it's better than they have been in the past. The next step in their learning journey as far as regulatory compliance is concerned is going to be not making that mistake at all. In other words, know your customer. KYC is a big deal. AML is a big deal. Anti-money laundering, sorry. So they have to actually get there and actually understand how that is and make fewer and fewer of those mistakes. But I think this shows that they are learning and they are moving in that direction. Now, something unfortunate, WazirX shuts down their NFT marketplace, and well, I think it's ahead of their time, right? It was in India. They opened up the NFT marketplace. It shuts down now, and all the users are going to move over to OpenSea. OpenSea needs that boost because Blur has surpassed them, and I think that if Blur had gotten that business, it'd be a different story. Anyway, that's it for today's news. I'll probably have more later, but we'll see. But you know what I want to do? I want to go over the numbers. That's right. Let's hit the numbers. So Right now, you know what? Let's refresh this because I opened it up about 10 minutes ago. So basically at the beginning of me shooting the video. So if we look at this, let's just see who the big winners and losers are. Let's take a look at the losers first. You know my 5% rule. I don't really pay attention to anything that's under 5% because when you do that, those 5% move, you can see it over here on one side and the next day they're over on the other side. You pay attention to those moves because that can be a big swing, enough of a swing for you to make money. So looking at Engine, they dropped 5%. Is anybody else over here that I'm paying attention to? Nervous Network dropped 7%. Tezos dropped 8%. I'd be paying attention to that. Stacks dropped 8%. I'd be paying attention to that as well. Anchor Network, another 8%. So those are ones that I'd be paying attention to. There's a lot of noise out there about Alchemy Pay, but yeah, they're in the top 200, but not quite enough for me to really want to go do any research on them. I just happen to remember the name. Now, on the other side, we actually have some decent movement to the positive side. This whole block is basically positive movement, right? You have Gate moving up about 6%. Let's see, who else am I paying attention to? Sushi moved 7% positive. Fetch AI 7% positive. Who else is over here that I'm paying attention to? Optimism, obviously 12%. It had been 13. I think it was even as high as 16% as a move yesterday, but I definitely remember 13. OKC moved 18%, and that's it. Those are the only ones that I'm paying attention to right now over there. Something that I want to call to your attention. Do you see this? Do you see this information? Supply change for Ethereum is negative 36,859, almost 860 Ether. Deflationary moves. That's a big deal. Doesn't show it now, but in the future, you're going to actually see that that's going to have a profound effect on the value of Ether and actually start to drive that up. And this is all since the merge, 162 days since the merge, and that's the effect that it's had. That's big. That's very much big. Pay attention to that. Fear and greed index, we're at 53. Now, I find that to be significant because we were just at 60, which put us in the greed section. Right now, we're in the neutral section. And that's all right, but I still think that we have some pent-up energy. I think we're all just waiting for things to happen. Now, what I will remind you of is that macro events can and will affect industry. So you've got Russia with their dumbass war going on in Ukraine, right? Then you have China signaling that they could actually get out there and, give lethal aid to Russia because they don't want Russia to lose. Because if Russia loses, their chances of taking over Taiwan is going to be a problem. I didn't pronounce that part properly. It's Taiwan, not Taiwan. So that's what I'm paying attention to, because that could be a very big deal, especially since the United States is going to increase their troop numbers in Taiwan. See, pronounce it properly that time, not in a rush. So when you think about that, I want you to go do some research on why Taiwan is such a big deal in the world. I'm not going to give it away here because I really want you to do the research. I really want you to get used to doing that and thinking that, macro events can still have an effect on industry, both crypto and the stock market. So pay attention to those things. It's not just that crypto is doing so well. Crypto can still be brought down by macro events. Okay. DeFi Llama, we were at 68 billion, little over 68 billion. We dropped 1 billion to 67. Now, here is where I really want you to pay attention. Right here. Okay. You see this line? Right here, 23,417 is my number. I'm not paying attention to anything else. I don't care about anybody else. That right there, that's the number that I'm paying attention to. So we took a dip right now, but we are still operating within this closed space between 23,417 and 25,210. Okay, that was a previous high and the most significant previous low, being 23,417 for the previous low and 25,210 as the most established high at the time. We've only touched it 3 times in the past few days. Okay? Pay attention to that because we're starting to move laterally. I think that as we continue to move laterally, unless there is a negative macro event, we could be priming the pump to actually move up. So something else I'm paying attention to. This was here just a minute ago. Let's go, guys. There you go. So taking a big picture of what's going on, people are crying that BTC is down below 24,000. Don't care. Don't care. It's still above that 23,417 number. Okay? 23,417. Keep that etched in your skull. Keep it there. Keep it right there. Because that's when I would be triggered to say, oh, we could be moving significantly to the downside. Or significantly enough that I would actually use my dollar cost averaging strategy to take some extra money and dip back in. I have a DCA strategy, a general DCA strategy, and then I have a DCA strategy that calls for certain numbers to be met, certain parameters to be met upon dips, okay? That's how I look at it. And again, I want you to pay attention to what everything is 1 hour to 24 hours to 7 days, 30 days, 90 days at year to date, okay? Pay attention to those things. Use all of that to actually paint your picture. This way you can look at short-term and medium-term runs. Then take a look at all-time highs. You can put all that information together and get a really good picture of what's going on in a different project from a numeric or metric standpoint. Anyway, this is Eddie J on crypto. I hope my information is, helpful to you. If you have questions, do me a favor, drop me a line, and I will try to answer them because I like to learn. All right? Have a good one. Bye-bye.